academic brilliance, those who have gathered to this first of its kind and one of its kind uh, workshop, which is especially tailor-made for editors all around the globe. So although there are many courses and trainings that are targeted towards authors for writing scientific papers, very few efforts are really done to provide excellence for our main task force for scientific publications, which are our editors. So I welcome to hold this August gathering for this first ever International Editors Workshop, which is hosted by IESRF today. So hello all, welcome. Now I would like to request Dr. Nikita ma'am to please start with this auspicious lamp lightening ceremony.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Ketki ma'am.
So indeed the atmosphere has become holy now, and let us now begin the show. I again request you ma'am to please play the foundation video for IESRF.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, it was really an insightful one. So ISRF has taken many worth applaud programs and training workshops so far, and this is one of them indeed. Very proud to be associated, ma'am. Now I would like to request our president, respected Dr. Jha sir, to please address this gathering.
Sir, unmute yourself, please.
Distinguished speakers of the evening, Patron Dr. Amina Sultan, who will be reaching very soon, and is also the Secretary of IESRF, co-patron Dr. Jayant Sarma, immediate past President and convener Dr. Binod Kumar, co-convener Dr. Nikita Pandit, our energetic treasurer Dr. Ketki, Dr. Lalit, all the program directors, committee members, advisory members, and all the distinguished speaker once again. and most importantly, the learned researchers in the audience. Well, it's a matter of great privilege and pride while I'm addressing you all this evening. Well, friends, all of us are aware that this is the first in this series of workshops being organized, and this one is for the editor workshop. Well, initiation of the editorial workshop is inherently built up around the editorial process, the ethical standard, various guidelines, and role and responsibility of the editors. At the very outset, I must express my gratitude for being nominated to be the chief patron. Well, this historic event will be so very much important, and I'm very conscious of being so honored and will serve to the best of my capability in championing the aims and help achieve the target. The editorial process is a highly subjective process by which the content of the write-up is created. This editorial process is iterative and it improves the designing of the write-up. Invariably, this process consists of shepherding through the content life cycle. Editors are single point of contact between the authors and the publication house. The editors and the editorial office must be seen to observe and adhere to these ethical and standard guidelines. The editors will have to bridge the gap between the authors and editors. The editors will have to make the authors agreeable and answerable to all the comments observed by the peer reviewer. I very earnestly hope, and I am very confident that all the members of the organizing committee under the leadership of Dr. Nikita Pandit and Dr. Amina Sultan will successfully pass on the message loud and clear. The editor is a magician, and this workshop will better equip him with his magical wand in taking the journal to the desired goal and help achieve unparalleled heights. Friends, here itself, I would like to request all my researchers that this is only for you, and you are the likely editor, reviewer, and a very senior author in the future. Please listen to all the points that are being talked about, and it is for the benefit of the publication and the editorial process. Finally, I wish a grand success. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jha sir. It is always very, soothing to talk to you. It gives us, it boosts the confidence and courage, So thank you once again. Now, with great privilege, and it's like my delightful duty today to introduce a very, very eminent person from our field, who is our first speaker today, Dr. Dinesh Badiyal sir. He is Associate Professor, Department of Surgery, MAMC, New Delhi, Consultant Global Surgery.
Ketki ma'am, some mistake is there.
Yeah, ma'am. Sorry.
Some mistake in introduction of Dr. Dinesh Badiyal, sir, please.
Okay, sorry. I'm extremely sorry. He is the Program Director, CMCL FMIR Regional Institute, Professor and Convener, Department of Medical Education. He was awarded Visiting Fellowship by Rector Clinical Skills and Simulation Center, Jefferson University, Philadelphia. Scholarship by German Academic Exchange Service, Professor G. Achari Oration for Eminent Pharmacologist by Indian Pharmacological Society, Rajiv Gandhi Gold Medal Award, and M.L. Gupta Award by Association of Physiologists and Pharmacologists of India. His area of interest includes faculty development, research methodology, and ethics. He is faculty in international and national medical education and research methodology programs and published huge number, which is more than 120 papers, written research modules for open universities, and authored 2 books and contributed to many chapters. So thank you, sir, for gracing us today. And I'm extremely sorry for the shuffle of introduction. Thank you. I request you, sir, to please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Ketki. And I also would like to congratulate the organizers for this unique effort where I could contribute a small part in educating the force, which is actually becoming more and more ethical in publications. So I also thank the chairperson and co-chairperson, Dr. Vinod and Dr. Sabita. Coming to the today's topic, the first topic, ethical obligations with regard to publication. So next 20 or 25 minutes, we will see some of the issues related to that, some examples I'm using. Okay, some of the experience I have with many journals, which I worked, that also taking into account. I think ethics is very wide term. So if you just try to concise it, it is moral code of conduct defining the right and wrong behavior in a civil society. It comes from within. It comes from within. And what is good and bad and moral duty and obligation. Ethical obligation publications are related to all stakeholders, authors, editorial team, reviewers, and publication houses. If we just concentrate on major issues, in the authors, you might be aware of fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism. Editorial team about decision-making, even the blinding from each other about other stakeholders, reviewers. Apart from blinding, sometimes, as you know, they're trying to find out the authors and decide how we need to move away from those things. If we just start with the first one, which is the ethical misconduct in publications, fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing, or in reporting the result. Fabrication especially is making up data or results, and falsification research is not accurately represented. Plagiarism, most of you are well aware of. We will go into details of that also. So these are the big 3 crimes of the research fraud in the publications. Huge examples are there. So when there's an appropriation of another person's idea, processes, results, or word without giving appropriate credit, that qualifies for plagiarism. Authorship related issues, gift authorship, ghost authorship, duplicate publication, conflict of interest, Islamic publications are very frequent these days because of pressure to publish. I'm sure you might have all seen this image number of times. Perish or publish something where all regulating agencies in different sciences are putting a number on publications, and also for the career prospectus, and also increased reliance on quantification of the value of a publication, H index, other indices. So that is putting a lot of pressure on the entire system. Even the journals also, editorial teams also, not only authors. And sometimes there's inappropriate personal ambition and greed. That my number is 200 and mine is 300. Many regulation efforts in this area. ICMGA, International Committee of Medical Journals Editors, started in 1978. Then the World Association of Medical Editors. Then the Committee on Publication Ethics by 1997 by the UK group. They are much more than that. So in India, if you look at it, there's Council for Scientific Industrial Research, which has come up with the guidelines for the ethics in research and governance, Standing Publication Ethics and Standing Vigilance Committee And if you see, they have put up here, if there's a minus transgression, moderate transgression, major transgression and severe, how is the amount is added with the compliance by the authors. This is only one of the guidelines now in the India. There are not many earlier, remember that, 2018, which were sort of law or something. Many more organizations are involved in that. For example, Society for Scientific Values has given how you can make a committees and work on that. Various associations have started efforts into that. Some good people have come together to maintain these ethical standards. Continuing to the plagiarism, when there is an unacknowledged use of another person's word or work as one's own work, false attribution, morally it becomes a sort of cheating or academic dishonesty or fraud. So this word is actually derived from, if you look at the terms which you see here, kidnapping. So that is the type of association it has. It's broadening its views. So copying of phrases, clauses, sentences, quoting directly, copying a section of a book article, buying, stealing, and so on. Even self-plagiarism is a part of this now, as defined by University Grant Commission also in India. UGC also has come up with the guidelines. They took some time to draft these guidelines. They were in the public domain for the comments also. They were pilot tested also. And now based on the plagiarism, they have defined some actions to be taken. So institutional committees, organizations can have committees, level of similarities up to 10%, 10 to 40%, 40 to 60%, or similarities above 60%. What is to be done in those cases? So that is well defined now. And also what is to be done. So level 3, so that should be, for example, you see here, shall be asked to withdraw the manuscript, shall not be allowed to be a supervisor of any new master MD for three years. So all these things actually now can be used, and number of university has already implemented these things. Ways to be like ethical in this. If sometimes people say, okay, plagiarism, I do not understand exactly. Words just matching, you can't say plagiarism. You have to be careful these days. You just can't say, I'm not unaware of that. So you must acknowledge the source of information. Check your paraphrases also. If you are copying verbatim, use question marks, quotation marks in that. The editor of Current Science found that 80 cases of plagiarism in articles submitted during 2006 to 8 due to authors' poor understanding of what they should and they should not do. So a lot of authors still say, we don't know, we don't understand. Without of that unawareness, we have done this. I just want to see, I see now more than 100 people here. Want to see your views on that. On your screen, now you will get a poll. Please respond to these 2 questions. You can go up and down. The poll is now on your screen. Question 1 followed by question 2. 1 is, have you been in a situation where you yourself experienced ethical dilemma with regard to publication? You might be on the editorial side, author, member of a committee, reviewer. So I can see a lot of people have already replied. You people are very fast. Yes, options are going up and down right now. No clear winner. Let's see when all of you reply. Yeah, please click on the choice which is applicable to you. So I see around 40% people have already replied. Just wait for 5 seconds more. Others can also reply onto that. Based on your answer yes and no, you can also click on the second choice. So we say now clear, approximately 50% of you say you have faced this situation, 24% no, and the rest is partly. Only few are not applicable. Yes, around now it is increasing to 46% around. And most of the time, most of the people who have responded, 50% almost has responded, they say it is when they are on the author side, followed by others, and then the reviewer, and then the editorial team. So I'm sharing that with you also. Sharing the result on your screen now. You can see 45% have faced the situation, 25% not, and rest is partly, you can say. And most of that is a very interesting finding, that most of you have faced that when you are an author, and 9% only when they say from the editorial board. So based on that, we continue further, and let's try to see more inputs into that. Publication rate of some scientists accused of fraud. Just look at that. Duration of year 5, and if you see here, total papers 341, papers per year 68, number of co-authors 40.
Hello?
John Darcy, then you say total papers 171, publications papers
Hello?
per year is 28. So that is the rate you see. This is one case in India, which is reported, nitrile degrading enzymes from one of the national institutes, which was detected after 14 years. This is Indian example. Author sides, we see duplications, authorship issues, gift authorship, honorary authorship also, the word which is now used. And actually, we should encourage people to use good publication practices to avoid that. Otherwise, this issue of et al. Is bothering everyone because of the regulations asking that you should be first author, second author, sometimes corresponding author. So people are putting up principal author anywhere. It depends on who needs that publication. And these authorship issues, ghost author, where somebody is omitted despite qualifying for the authorship, or guest author who is listed despite not qualifying for the authors. So everyone is trying to get this share in that pie. Signs indicating authorship problems. This is from some of our experiences when we find co-author is not unable to respond to comments. Changes are made by somebody not on the author list. And a lot of articles publishing. Authorship is contested. That is a definite indication. Several similar review articles. Role missing from the list of contributors. That also sometimes gives you a lot of indications. Unfeasibly long or short author list. That long authorship list gives you a lot of indication. And some other sponsored products if that is there. This is one series of Medline citations, and a sample was taken, and they found that 0.04% with no shared author, but content is highly similar. So that is sort of qualifying for plagiarism. 1.35% with shared authorships and highly similar content. Duplications. So that makes it 3,500 plagiarized and 1,17,000 duplicate papers. So there are many ways to find it. So the best practices for authorship when we are looking at ethical application is discuss the order of authorship at beginning. Revisit decision on authorship. We are recently publishing an author article. When during the process, I thought some people were contributing more, some were not. So the authorship sequence which we decided, we agreed to revise that. We all agreed. And it was revised based on participation, not the earlier decided sequence. Disclose if any writing done by professional writers, document everything. All authors take responsibility for content. ICMG criteria is there. You can refer to that also. So that is available, and a lot of journals refer to that criteria. Initial submission is based on that. COPE is also used. We also run a FAMA Regional Institute where we have a lot of research publication in medical education. we were facing this issue. So we made an authorship criteria. So everything is written now in the black and white for all the people. This is just parts of that, say 4 or 5 pages criteria. Some institutions, for example, this institute runs a course on publication ethics. Okay, some people who want to get trained also, you can get into a formal course. On the editorial side, we faced a lot of things like peer review, how reviewers are selected and assigned. People will also call you. Can I suggest that reviewer? I talk to them. They will do it fast. So then we have to tell them that is usually better it is to us. Citations. This interesting lot of journals will have in their comments cite from their journal. This is related to the journal metrics to improve their citation index. And some authors use it actually. You can say they are intelligent, you use their citation to improve their acceptance rate, transparency, fair play, and confidentiality. This rapport building among authors, peer reviewers, and editors is very, very important. So that makes the task of publishing a smooth sailing. Compliance of misconduct, how much you follow that. It is not just if somebody withdraws. If it qualifies from 40%, 60%, what do you do? That also affects. And blinding. How honest and integrity is maintained in that. To sum up, looking at the time, so we'll cut down on some of that. Ethical obligations with regard to publication continue to be a matter of concern. All authors have ethical responsibility. Plagiarism is emerging as a serious issue. Authorship is a very, very important issue in present scenario in India. Lack of awareness on ethical issue is not an excuse. And absence of appropriate guidelines, which is there, is being met with now. There are legal issues also. So with that, I sum up and the ethical obligations with regard to publications. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. We do. Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah.
Do you want to say?
Good evening, all. Thank you, Dr. Dinesh sir, for giving such a wonderful presentation on ethical application on publication. And I think most of the points have been clear. And now further talks on subsequent topics will also clarify the different doubts and questions. I think some questions are there in the chat box. Sir, one of the question is, what are free sites for plagiarism check before uploading any document?
Quooker and more. Sorry, you just type in Google. There are many actually.
Yes,
We don't want to give examples, one or two.
Yes.
Each one has their limitation and benefit, but remember that they will, if you are looking at free sites, they have a word limit. Okay, so they will check your first 2 pages or 500 or 1000 words only. So ultimately, I will ask you if you are associated with any university. Most of the universities have one software at least. So use those services.
Sir, one more question is role of jargon in academic research, sir.
That is a totally actually subjective based on what context you are writing. For example, if it's a review article, you are using that. Sometimes you have to use that. That is possible. But in the purely research when we are using that has to be based on the facts or data which you have collected there. So that will depend on the context of the project.
Right, sir. Right. Thank you, sir. One more. If using microbes, do we need to use ethical clearance?
See, if you are publishing, you need ethical clearance for everything. That is for sure. It is irrespective of what material you are using.
Okay, sir. Thank you. One more last question, sir. Is only similarity index a good way to assess the plagiarism?
No. Most of the people will, if the similarity is around 10-15%, they refer it back to the reviewer and editors also. We do also. Sometimes we find that 10 to 15% similarity is this, what, and other things. Then it is passed. That manual check is very important on that similarity index. Once we put a paper for similarity, check the plagiarism on a website. To our surprise, it came out to be 90%. We were surprised. That was something, one of the first work you can see in that area. Then what we found is when on these softwares you upload your component to check, they save a copy of this automatically. So there's an option to unsave. So whenever you check on these sets, so there was an earlier copy saved on that of our manuscript when we checked in the draft version. Okay, so that is happening a lot actually. A lot of people reject because of that reason. So we have to do a manual check after that if there is suspicion, okay, of so high similarity. Low similarity, definitely manual index, and sometimes 10-15% usually goes off.
That's so interesting finding that your copies are being saved. Sir, two more is for case report. No, sir, one more. Is et al. A substitution for others forever or not? Not at all.
That is a quite a dilemma right now. It cannot be substitution for others. Okay, you know, earlier they decided for 3, after et al. Now 6. This keeps on changing. I think as we evolve, as we see the people around that manipulating their things, people keep on changing the regulations based on that.
Sir, one more is for case report. You need any ethical clearance?
If you're going for publication, a lot of journals are asking, but otherwise, if you have photographs in the case report, you are using that. For that particular thing, they will ask you consent form. A lot of journals are doing consent form if you are publishing a photograph of the patient in case report. But going before, because most of the case reports, first you find it. So most of the people are not applying for ethical clearance to find a case report first.
Sir, what about the case series?
Case series, definitely you need a publication because you are planning that thing, and that is a part of now your even promotion criteria.
Sir, now one last question. Different parts of the manuscript can have different value for plagiarism. Give an estimate of how much similarity can be suggestive or definitive for plagiarism.
You can follow that UGC guidelines or CISR, which percentage is given. And after that, a manual check can be done if it is around 10-15%.
Thank you, sir. I think the rest of the questions can be answered in the chat.
Yeah, somebody has asked about Urkund. Urkund is now taken, actually Urkund is now actually taken by some other site. So it has become a paid through that site, and they have changed the name also a bit. So
I think, thank you, sir. And we will stop. And for further questions, they can put in the chat box and we can follow later on. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So much for
everyone.
such a nice, wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Dr. Ketki, to you, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. I think question answers, so many questions are there even in our, our minds also. So we can catch up on, email or chat box later on. We do have a question answer session again. So it was wonderful, sir, listening to you, and very small things, were taken up so beautifully and, elaboratively. I'm very glad, sir. So for handing over the token of appreciation and love, may I request Dr. Sabita ma'am to please, present a plaque of appreciation to Dr. Badial, sir.
Yes. Sir, it's really an honor to present the plaque of appreciation to
Thank you so much.
So you have been, for everybody, he has been my mentor, my guide, and still I have learned a lot of things from him. And now you are also part of it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Savita. Thank you, Dr. Ketki.
So this is the plaque. We really thanks again, sir. Thank you, Nikita ma'am. Thank you, Dinesh sir, once again. Dr. Ketki, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Again, thank you, ma'am. Now, with the same zeal, I would like to introduce our second honorable guest speaker for today, Dr. Lavneesh Bains, sir. He is an associate professor, Department of Surgery, MAMC, New Delhi, consultant, global surgery, WHO Collaborating Center for Research and Surgical Care Delivery, associate editor for so many reputed journals, including BMC Surgery, Journal of Medical Case Reports, BMC Springer, Clinical Case Reports from Wiley, reviewer for many journals, including many PubMed and many Scopus Index. So I am really happy that we have such a great eminence today to deliver their expertise in the field. I would humbly like to request Dr. Lavneesh Bains, sir, to please start with his presentation.
Okay, namaskar, greetings to everyone, and I thank Dr. Jha, the ISF Foundation, Madam Nikita, Dr. Savita is there. So inviting me, into this galaxy of all luminaries and this all August gathering. So I'm in my phase of learning. I see so many of you. I continue to learn from you. So my greetings and regards to my seniors, and again, my namaskar to all the participants in the evening today. Is my screen sharing on?
No, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Your screen sharing is on.
Okay, let me change the view. I was not having it. Okay, is my screen there now?
Yes, sir. It is with.
Yes, now it's there, sir.
Okay, fantastic. And greetings again. So myself, Dr. Lavnish, and the topic which has been assigned to me, the responsibility of journal editors. I was going through it. I think my initial couple of slides will say what are the responsibilities. But after getting this topic, I went through, and then I encountered there are plenty of responsibilities for a journal editor. Let me emphasize, whatever responsibilities I'm going to talk in this particular presentation are essentially for the editor-in-chief. So I bring greetings from my alma mater, that is Maulana Azhar Medical College, where I'm associate professor in surgery. And my disclosures are, I'm currently on the editorial board of BMC Surgery, Journal of Medical Case Reports, Clinical Case Reports. And sources used in my presentation are essentially from WAME, Pope, BMC Springer, Wiley. And of course, some of the images have been downloaded from Google. So in a nutshell, if I have to put in what are the various responsibilities of an editor, I will simply say that any editor should follow the best practices. That is, they should be doing all their editorial work with integrity, maintaining confidentiality, and being impartial to everyone. But just have an overlook of a process, what happens to when we submit any kind of a manuscript to a journal. The editorial office just puts in a check and finds if the checks are right and goes for an initial editorial assessment. And if found okay, goes for a peer review. You wait for the decision of peer review for the time, and then the decision is either accept, revision, or reject. Thereafter, you move on to, you send it for revision, another peer review for the corrections, and you have a preliminary acceptance and goes to publication. I thought that this is just the work of, the journal and the editorial office, and no. When I went back and was trying to make up this presentation, I think the editor of a scientific journal, especially the editor-in-chief, has too many responsibilities. What essentially I showed you the last slide, I think that is only meant with the editor, author, and the peer reviewer. Now they have responsibilities towards the journal readers, towards the scientific community, because whatever evidence, whatever research has been coming, there has to bring in some evidence on a sound methodology. And of course, they are employee of some publisher. They do have some obligation to the publishing house also. And in the subsequent slides, we will see all the responsibilities one by one. Essentially, if I have to put in, I will put in 2 lines that they may need to, see the technical content of the journal, or the editor may have to see the operations of the journal. In the technical content, all the decisions for the manuscript, acceptance, revision, rejections, seeing the associate editors, their responsibilities, supervise the entire review process, ensure everything is in time, continue to maintain the high standards, to what are the best practices have been established by various guidelines, you do just adhere to it. And continue to enrolling reviewers. It is very difficult to find reviewers these days. If operations, then it comes to you maintain your editorial staff, continue to hire, support, or select more associate editors, assistant editors, and reviewers. You have to ensure that every journal issue is timely published. Then you have to attend the meetings of the editorial board, meetings with the publishing house, and you have to continue to promote the journal and ensure it has a subsequent substantial growth. That is how you will look. These are the important, or these are the main, in a nutshell, if I have to put it. Now, going one by one, let's see. In this gathering, I suppose we already have many learned editors, and some might be learning like me, and some might have to take up the editorial roles in the future, in the coming times. So let me start from the basics. If I have to establish a journal, that what we have to see is that editor should already have something in mind, that should be clear vision, what should be the content of the journal, and whether it will be catering to the needs or the interest of the readers, or it is taking care of most promising research in the particular field. Now, this is the editor's vision. Editorial content may have been already predetermined by the publication house. Say a publication house like Elsevier or someone has, they already have journals on many things, many streams of oncology, but suddenly they start, let us have a journal on head and neck oncology. So not a discipline which is predetermined by a publication house, or it may be geographic or region specific. Then editor's responses, his vision, his responsibility is to see whether I have to, broaden or narrow down the journal. Like say, if I'm running an oncology journal and essentially I was covering something about surgery, should I now started having molecular or genetics or medical oncology in that, or should I remain fixed with it, or should I come up with a new journal? After your vision, after you have determined the content, it's a time that you establish some SOPs, that editorial standards and policies. And now these days you can find all these policies and SOPs already made by publication houses. There are many guidelines which are existing. So ensure good SOPs are already in place when you move forward. Then comes the editorial office. You need staff. They will assign you manuscript number. They will be communicating with the authors. They will be communicating with the reviewers. They will be taking care of all the hardware and software related work. Then you need equipments. Dr. Dinesh are already talking like plagiarism, but you need, software to check for the plagiarism of a journal, manuscript tracking, that which manuscript has gone on which day to which reviewer, which author, and communication related softwares. Now, again, the editor here has to see whether he is able to do the things himself, or he needs how many helping hands. Assistant editors, what should be the responsibility to them? Whether he will be taking decision on the manuscript himself, or he requires more hands or more manpower to himself. Is there an editorial board that has been defined by himself, or it has been defined by the publication house? They must have some kind of a number of members from which stream to be taken up. And it is editor's responsibility to see how many new members or what should be the qualification criteria for the editorial board. Then comes the process of manuscript evaluation. Now, do remember, it is a very professional thing. It has to be done in a time-bound, in a professional manner. Now, after establishing the SOP, you have to establish the SOPs for the evaluation of manuscripts. It is the editor, editorial board members, or it will be external reviewers, or we will have a combination of both internal and external people. Do we have a system for rapid review? Because these days, in the COVID times, we are getting manuscripts, we are asking for rapid review. Perhaps they have some kind of evidence which can help us in COVID times. So, but the editor should define, and the author should be able to give a substantial explanation that why they are seeking a rapid review. Then editors can, directly take up some of the manuscripts if they are pertinent, if they are methodologically sound, if they are of high standards, they can take in directly. Otherwise, editor, if they found the manuscript is not for the scope of the journal, is bit shabbily, doesn't support the evidence, they can directly reject. How many persons are needed for a review? 2, 3 more. Internal, external, that needs to be defined. And editor always asks the recommendations. And do remember, it can be 3 versus 1, it can be 2 versus 1, it can be 1 versus 1. So one reviewer says yes, one can say no. It will be ultimately the editor on their own assessment will define what is the decision for that particular manuscript. Now, this is also the editor's responsibility in conjunction with the publishing house that every information for the author should be there on the website. Like this is example, I have got it from this journal, Langenbeck's Archives of Surgery, that general policies for authorship criteria, what type of manuscripts, what is the scope, which particular manuscript they should be taking, various criteria should be clearly listed on the journal's website. So if you open up this page, submission guidelines, it clearly lists the types of paper this journal will take. The text, manuscript preparation, number of words is always there, reference style, which style has to be used. So it should be a clear process, and also it should be able to define how the manuscript is going to be evaluated. The type of peer review should be clearly listed. Let us see this example. This is the home site of BMC Surgery, and there is an option of submission guidelines on the top and instruction for authors. Now this content has to be seen by the editor-in-chief. Whenever you click on submission guidelines, another page opens up and it guides you how to prepare your manuscripts, what are the scope and policies of the journals. Now coming to be more specific, if it has to be author related, what are the role of editors that they have to communicate, or what services they have to provide to the author. They have to provide clear guidelines like the last slides, which manuscripts and how. Clear description of the authorship criteria. Sir was talking in his slide that ICJME has even a clear criteria regarding the authorship. Journal policies. Remember to treat all authors with fairness, courtesy, honesty, and transparency. There is no big and small author. So everything has to be treated in a very professional way. Maintain confidentiality of the every author's work. Policies on conflict of interest should be clearly listed. The type of peer review the manuscript is going should be clearly listed, and ensure that all kinds of timelines are duly respected. All communication is done with the author in a due time, proper time. These are author specific. Then again, they will be having some responsibilities to the reviewers. Reviewers will lead what kind of a policy matters are there. Sometimes, these journals give them a checklist that for a particular manuscript, you have to fill this particular checklist and see accordingly whether the introduction is appropriate, methodology, this thing has been seen or not, what was the stats analysis done. So everything has to be, there can be a checklist. So it could be written and explicit instructions, what was the scope of the journal and what we are expecting in our review. Provide clear-cut guidelines. Ensure you have already identified potential conflicts of interest of the reviewers also. And you have to ensure that reviewers maintain their timelines. Sometimes you have already sent an invite for a review, but nobody has acknowledged. You may need to send again, maybe after 3 days or 7 days, and you may have to check whether they have accepted decline. And after a certain period, it comes that editor has to choose. If he has not got a substantial number of reviewers, then he has to move on and has to identify more reviewers. Since the reviewers are working, out of their busy times, out of their academic profile, they're working for free. Editors must also ensure that they have some kind of a contribution, recognizing the contribution of the reviewers. Now, how this can be done? The editors can, submit or publish on their journals who were the reviewers of the last year, acknowledge them. There can be some letters issued. Many of the journals do give certificate for every manuscript reviewed so that people can use it for their CV and academic profiles. Offering them educational credits, like whenever you review a manuscript, Wiley, where I do this work as the associate editor, whenever a reviewer completes the manuscript, Wiley offers a 30% discount on their publication books. And if you find a reviewer of a good quality and ensuring timelines, you can always invite them to serve as on the editorial board of our particular journal. Peer review, again, this has to be under the supervision of the editor. That policy should be clear whether it is going to be open, single-handed, or double-blinded. How many number of reviews you require? Usually for a case report, you just require 2 reviewers. But for a proper research, you may require 5, 6, or maybe up to 10, depending on the editorial assessment. Do remember that editorial decision are based on peer reviewer comments. But in case you find some kind of a superficial peer review reports, now superficial reports, sometimes it takes time to understand which are the superficial one. If you have given a checklist and you find yes, no kind of answers, that is a kind of a superficial report. There should be a rationale. There should be a clear rationale why the manuscript should be accepted, what are the pros and cons, what are the flaws. It should be clearly listed. So editorial decisions, that is a responsibility again, that it should be based on a proper rationale. And of course, apart from peer reviewers, editors' own assessment is very important. Where you don't require a peer review, like editorials, which are directly invited, book reviews, commentaries, opinion, you may accept directly, unless the particular book review or editorial is outside the scope or subject of the editor. Then he can pass on to the second senior most member of the editorial board. Now comes the responsibility to the scientific community. Now, likewise, my first or second slide, I was just talking about authors, reviewers, and editors. Now, there has to be an obligation, responsibility for the scientific community. That because you are bringing in some kind of research, you are bringing in some kind of evidence. Now, every research should be evidence-based. For the scientific community, because they want to collaborate on that particular research, ensure that authors' details, authors' contact details are there. There are proper references. If the scientific community wants to draw some of their conclusion, they want to collaborate on further research with the particular author or the team, they can come forward. Clear disclosing information sources should be there. And there should be mechanism for further discussion on the merits and demerits of a paper. Now, one of the example is letter to editor. Whenever the manuscript has been published, you come with a letter to editor. So stating what was the issues with that, or you had already done a similar research, or there some kind of a flaws were there in the research methodology. So there should be clear thing for the scientific community and ensuring accessibility of the content. We are in an era of moving towards open access. But open access comes with a huge publishing cost for the journal. And so for the author, they try to take all the charges from the author only. Publishing house, yes, editor have a very responsibility for the publishing house. They have to comply with the guidelines and the procedures. But do remember, the editors should remember that decisions of the boss or decision of the publishing company should not interfere with the editorial independence. That the editor should be free to choose their contents. Editor should be free to decide upon the manuscripts without any undue influence from the publishing house. But yes, they should take all the steps to go as per their mission to promote the organization, promote the publishing, and help in its conclusive growth. Then you have an obligation or a responsibility towards the public that ensure what the quality control measures have been taken whenever the manuscript is being evaluated. They have a great responsibility towards the public, because whatever scientific evidence, whatever things are being generated, the outcomes of the scientific enterprise are perhaps being used for the benefit of the public only. Identify dual use research. That means there can be some research which can be used to harm the public. That should be taken critically by the editor, whether to go ahead with it or not. But the pros and cons of that particular thing should be listed or maybe discussed with the editorial board. Protection of research participants. My slides will be a bit longer because I tried to put in many things into this. What are the various responsibilities? So protection of the research participants, whenever a manuscript is being published, this is also a responsibility of the editor, that all the investigations, all the research has been done in concordance with the Helsinki Declaration. It is the editor's responsibility to check that a proper approval for the study was there, whether from an independent or institutional ethics board. In case there is a formal letter or formal clearance from the ethical board and the reviewer or the editor has already found there are issues, they can always form their own judgment and ask for a recall or a re-evaluation. Patients have a right to privacy. Do remember, you have to protect the patient rights, ensure no names, no hospital names, nothing should be listed without that should not be listed. And in case anything is should be listed like images or anything, it should be done with the proper informed consent. Now the time is there that most of the journal ask for that informed consent should be there, and they have to publish or they have to put in a clause that informed consent was available, and it can be anytime asked from the editor-in-chief. Then the issue is then some journals come with their supplements, like it is a COVID time going on. Some journal will come with a special series, COVID collection for everyone. So again, this is the responsibility of the editor that all the policies, practices, and contents of the supplement should be decided upon them. In case they are going to select any kind of an external editor, author, or reviewer, that again the vicarious liability or responsibility lies with the editor-in-chief of the journal. Do remember when this supplement issue comes up and they are topic specific, they are also funded by some companies, and ensure that whatever advertisement is being taken, it should not be unduly influenced by anything. So whatever the funding should be there, it should be also clearly listed for the supplement issues or the thematic series. Then the journal's interaction with the media, it is again the responsibility of the editor-in-chief that they should balance what is to be released to the media, pros and cons of whatever things is to be there. And any things which has to be released to the media should not be very presumptive. It should have already passed through the peer review. Only after that they can consider to give it some kind of a press release or news release to the journal. Let us see this example. Now this is a recent paper which has come say on 25th August, 2 days back only. It says SARS-CoV infection and venous thromboembolism after surgery, international prospective cohort study. And this is ahead of print. So the editor may grant permission for a manuscript that has been peer reviewed and accepted for publication for information only when the research appears to be of vital public health importance. Now this particular manuscript says the people who were taken up for surgery during the COVID era, during the COVID times, and especially they have found that the usual DVT rate was something around 7, and in COVID patient it was up to 40%. Same, the mortality was correlating with that. So the DVT was an independent mortality indicator. Now this is the important finding. Now everybody, I think we agree that yes, there are the coagulation disorders in the case of the COVID infection. So yes, these articles can be released for the welfare of the public ahead of print. Promote your journal. Yeah, you can share the articles, you can tweet about it, you can like other articles, you can like your fellow journal articles and keep on sharing with a wider perspective. Remember, use social media with the caution. It can be a double-edged sword also. And this is again a kind of a promotion. This COVID surge paper, which was published last year, and it was having around 15,000 collaborating authors. So this is just a way of promoting that BJS surgery says ki whatever publication was with us has been awarded a particular prize. So promote the journal is again a responsibility of the editor. Journal metrics, important issue. Whenever yourself or myself is going to publish an article, we would like to go with the journal with the highest impact factor. So it does matter. I will try with the highest impact factor. I know they will not take my article, so I will switch down to a lower journal. Perhaps I may start with the impact factor of 5, then come to 4, 3. Well, nobody takes it and come down. So it is a step ladder kind of a pattern where I keep on descending down. So ensure that initially it was only impact factor. Now we have many indexes. H index can be for the author, for the journal matrix also. There is something known as L matrix. L matrix has various modalities. How many times a paper has been shared, how many times the paper has been downloaded, how many times it has come in the media. So L matrix gives you that score. So research metrics are the various tools which can help to tell about the quality and impact of research. Now these research metrics are listed on the journal site also. Apart from the impact factor, whenever you open a particular article, you will find it is listed. This article was downloaded 1500 times and it has 6 citations. You can click, you can get your citations there. So ensure your journal metrics are always updated regularly. They are up to date. Then indexing. Now it is seen that indexing is a reflection of a quality of a journal. If it is indexed in the topmost indexing authorities or the guidelines or the companies, it is considered to be of a higher scientific value as compared to the other non-indexed. So if you see, we have a plethora of indexing agencies now. So ensure that your journal complies with the standards ensured by these indexing agencies. Another responsibility is, because I said difficult to find reviewers, difficult to find editors also. So ensure that you keep on expanding your pool of your already editorial team, because some member may go out, some member may be retiring, some member may be doing this editorial services job with 5 or 6. They may not be able to give you time. So ensure, I've taken this kind of advertisement from BMC Saji only, that they have now given this advertisement that they are interested in experienced individuals who are committed to open access, data sharing and innovation. Those who can find 2 to 3 hours per week. They have listed their criteria. They could have 10 papers with first or second authors, and past experience as a reviewer is very favorable. So that's a criteria which they will put up. So, and it also clearly lists what will be their roles and responsibilities, that they have to assess a manuscript for its suitability for the scope of the journal, to send to the respective peer reviewers, take decision on that, and pass the decision to the senior editor for a final decision. And the number of manuscripts handling, they will be expected to handle 2 to 3 manuscripts per month. Similarly, they expand your reviewer base. That now please find out, have reviewers of the respective areas, respective subjects. They all, again, there is a criteria that you must have somewhere around 10 articles for the last 5 years. They should be respecting timelines. Peer reviewer, usually whatever journals say, they clearly say don't try to go for the seniors one, because they will be members of many places. They will be on the boards of many things, so they won't be able to give up time. And these are the various other criteria which they list for the identification of a potential reviewer, and then invite them accordingly onto their journal pool. Advertising. Now, journals have to thrive, publishing houses, they have to thrive on advertising, because they need revenue. Because every publication or dissemination of things, print, they come with a huge cost. But the journal should not be dominated by advertisements. It should be the full, purview of the editor, that they should approve which advertisements to be taken, and they should not be unduly influenced whether somebody is offering a heavy amount or hefty amount for advertisements, or from the publishing house that you should take. Now, it should be very independent of an editor. They should have a clear-cut guidelines, formal, explicit written guidelines for both print and electronic version. I was thinking that, editor's work is finished. No, it's not finished. Manuscript has been published. Everything has been taken care of, ethics, policies, but there can be some kind of issue. The issues can be, scientific misconduct. Sir was telling about in the previous his presentation. It can be, somebody can raise a claim that this data is fabricated, this data is false, manipulated, or somebody failed to disclose their affiliations. They were working on the board of some pharma companies also. So whenever you receive some kind of a complaint of a scientific misconduct, ensure that COPE, that is Committee on Publication Ethics, have already listed the various protocols and flowcharts to handle that. Do remember, now when the particular misconduct is in question, what the editors can do, they can send a mail to the Authors Institute, ask them to verify the various claims, provide them the various other documents. In case you don't find a response from the author or from the institute, you can always publish something known as expression of concern on your web page, that there is some concern. And in case the article was already published and it needs to be retracted because of various scientific misconduct, then it has to be given a proper citation. That particular manuscript will always remain in public domain, but will be clearly listed as retracted. Post publication, like sir was telling, example of somebody article was restricted after 14 years. Now again, COPE has listed a flowchart guidelines to handle all these complaints, and they should be duly investigated and proper action should be taken against them in a proper timely manner. I'm towards the concluding of my slides. Let me put in this word, and this is more of this thing, ethics, editorial freedom, which is equivalent to editorial independence. That whosoever is the editor-in-chief, they will have the full authority and the full control on the entire editorial content. They will decide which advertisements to be taken. They will not let the publishing house to interfere in the evaluation, selection, or acceptance or rejection of the manuscripts. And every such decision should be, impartial and with due integrity. Editorial decision should be on the validity of the work, not on the commercial implications of the journal. That's a new term which has been perhaps listed on the WAME and ICGME sites also. There is something known as editorial freedom. Maintain confidentiality. You should never talk about any manuscript. These are the privileged communications. So all the editorial staff, publication staff, they should be only sharing the manuscript whosoever are involved in evaluation and publication process. Do not disclose any information because they can have some kind of a harmful effect or on the premature disclosure of author's work. So please maintain confidentiality, and that entire editorial staff is maintaining that has to be seen by editor-in-chief. Now this confidentiality can be breached. When there is a legend of a scientific misconduct, then editor-in-chief has a full right to conduct a full-scale inquiry into that. Conflicts of interest of editors, yes, I see MJE already gives you the various guidelines regarding that there should be any kind of a conflicts of interest of editor should be clearly listed. Financial, which are the boards they serve, which are the pharma companies where they are working with. So it could be financial, non-financial, both, or including personal beliefs, everything. They should be disclosing. Much of the information can be on the homepage and rest of the information kept with the publishing house. Can these editor-in-chief publish in their own journals? Since they are editor-in-chief, it is easy for them get their manuscript accepted? No. Maintain some impartiality, maintain some ethics. If they can publish into their own journals, yes, but some senior editorial member will oversee the entire process. The reviewers should not be from the editorial board. They should be external peer reviewer, and the decision will be lying with them. This is the WAME Code of Conduct. I'm just going to read it verbatim, and then I will be closing my presentation. So medical journal editors are accountable and responsible for what they publish, and they should use rigorous evaluation and peer review methods in the scholarly work. Ensure that the research has been ethically conducted, is methodologically sound. Pursue lifelong learning and teaching. Now, this is the thing we should continue. There are many things we are there. I have been, recently gone through many editorial modules, and I have learned many new things also. Recognize the need to remedy the knowledge deficit in themselves. Continue to gain knowledge. Establish and disseminate clear and transparent policies for all authors, editors, reviewers. Identify the potential conflicts of interest and prevent conflicts of interest in any kind of a decision making. Publish the best they can through with the careful editing, attention to the details, and an entire editorial team is contributing to that. Engage in regular quality improvement, assessing journal and article impact. In the last, those who are budding and are looking for editorial work, what benefits do I get as an editor? I'm giving up my time. I don't have a financial benefits. So what I gain by becoming an editor? Okay, you can contribute to the community because research is going through you. You ensure that a scientifically valid research, which is reproducible, which is sound, is going into public. Definitely these kind of work raise your profile and benefits your career. You continue to, increase your ability, skill and knowledge. Increase your knowledge in your particular research field. You can contribute to the development of the journal by being a senior member of the editorial board, and you can always get your due credits on some websites or some creditors like Publons and Orchid. I know it was extensive, but I have come to an end. Any queries I can take up?
Thank you so much, sir. Sabita ma'am, do you want to take the question and answer session again?
I think Dr. Vinod will handle this. I think
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
Vinod is there.
Sir, yeah,
Over to
sir.
Vinod,
Thank you, sir. Sir, thank you, sir. Good presentations. Hello.
Thank you, Dr. Vinod. I know it was exhaustive.
Yeah, sir. Sir, thank you. Nice. There are few questions from audience here in chat box. Can I read?
Please, sir, go ahead.
One, Smita Agarwal. Is it institutional ethical clearance enough? The questions we found. One first question: is it ethical clearance is enough? Whether the audience she wants to ask, is it any other authenticate body to justify that study has been conducted, or if the ethical clearance has been given, is it sufficient? It's like an approved body only that study has been genuine authenticate. That's what the question I mean.
Even I have mentioned that even if it is an approved body and you have sent the manuscript for evaluation by the peer reviewers, and if they find some serious lapses or serious flaws are there with the methodology, with the stats of the particular thing, that doesn't preclude that we have to, it is a binding that I have to accept that. The editor can ask for a full scale details. That is why we have created repositories.
Editor can ask primary details, data, even authentication, directly you can write to institution wherever it's sure.
Yes,
you are right, sir. Yes.
There is a
sir, another question.
Okay, please.
Sir, another question. One person, Sandeep, is it necessary that editorial member selected should be an university faculty, or is it like a faculty member working in any college or in any institution, or in any scientific government approved scientific bodies?
It is not necessary to be a faculty or a government approved bodies. I think I have mentioned some criteria. They can be researcher in the respective field, may not be necessary the faculty. They can be, personal of eminence.
Yeah, he can be a clinician also.
They can be non-clinician also. They can be anyone, but they should have a sound knowledge of the subject.
Yeah, sound knowledge of a subject, sir. Sir, one Pawan Kare, Doctor. This is a lot of questions even we do receive. A lot of journals invite the authors once they have published one article or two articles. If they are a corresponding author, they receive an invitation. Join the editorial board. Yeah, we do take you. Send your name and details. So in that circumstances, what should be done? That is Pawan Kare. He has asked in the chat box. So we are receiving a lot of invitations.
You publish one article and after then your spam is full of all these things. Number one,
they'll be in the authors.
Yeah, being the authors.
What should be done? That's what the audience wants to ask. What should be done, sir, at that time?
Don't pay heed to that. If you are really interested in joining, please do remember I have laid down a criteria. A journal, a reputed journal will have a good criteria. They will ask for your CV. They will not directly invite you to join the editorial board direct away. Please do understand. You can always check the authenticity of the journal. You can open the journal, see its indexing, see its abstracting information.
Whether it is a predatory journal or not, whether it is a newcomer journal.
You can make it up.
Sir, the same questions is that what is a predatory journal? Same thing. One more question has been asked by anonymous person. What is a predatory journal, sir?
So predatory journal can have a multitude of definitions. One is they are asking for your research, like something that you have published one article. They will 5 or 6 mails you get. We need one article, please comply and please we will publish it at a nominal fees. That is one example. Then other predatory journals, they don't have a kind of a proper review process. You submit a manuscript, they will pass it verbatim, they will publish it verbatim, and they again, perhaps most of the predatory journals are asking for charges.
Nowadays even Jeffrey Bell's listing has come. Really every year they are updating about that's the Bell's list of predatory journals. Even we do questions, sir, whether can we rely Bell's list? We say no, not to rely on also. Jeffrey Bales list. Even because it is a American one librarian's opinion. It is not the opinion of the entire fraternity. So we should look into completeness of the journal, authenticity of the journal, the peer review process, and editorial, the members, their profiles of the editorial members, and a good indexing, even the website designing. How there are a lot of things. If they are a good academician, they will judge whether it is a good or bad. Need not to rely on Bales criteria or any criteria. The good judgment is by a senior academician who has published a lot of articles, who is a reviewer. They can give a look. And another question is, sir, is it 2 reviewers sufficient? Another question is there in chapter. Is it 2 reviewers will decide the fate of one manuscript? That was the question.
I think I said for a case report, I think usually 2 are enough. It is not that we invite 2. We send.
Yeah, that is a minimum. Minimum 2 people outside one reviewer should there. Even they can select 5, 6, 7, some journals even go according to their. And last question is manuscript if rejected, is there a possibility of re-appeal?
Yes, there is a possibility.
Yeah. As per ICMJ, there is a re-appeal is possible. Even rejected manuscript can be taken back by editor-in-chief and he can review and he can resubmit it. If we find, even the questions, we receive a lot of questions is there. Sir, my manuscript accepted by peer reviewer but rejected by editor. Is it unethical? No, it is ethical only. Because even board finds it is work is not authenticate, it can be rejected even after reviewers have accepted. That board has a power.
I do agree with that. Let me give you some other side of it. See, it is peer reviewer which have give the recommendation for acceptance, but it is the editor who knows which manuscripts are already in line. If this particular manuscript is similar to the manuscript which is already listed for publication, or similar kind of a manuscript was published last year or 6 months ago. So editor knows the best. Peer reviewer is not having that data with that.
That's what the question is like that only. If manuscript is rejected by reviewers, is it my possibility to re-appeal or rule check by editorial board? Yeah, we can order.
Yes.
As a board, we can. The board is like a supreme body. It is its own in ethical limitations.
Yes, it can be.
Last questions. Purvi, Dr. 1 is final. Guidelines for constitution of EP. What is the guidelines, sir? We would like to join. So what is the guidelines? Is they have their own guidelines to frame a EP editorial board or review board?
See, most of the guidelines are framed by the publishing house, but once an editor-in-chief joins in, now it should. I give an example of editorial freedom. So once an editorial-chief joins in, it is his purview to decide on the editorial board which subject specialist, how many number of specialists they can take.
And now, from also different geographical areas.
Absolutely. See, there is no minimum number. You can keep the integrity of the country and integrity of that geographical region. Yeah, as such, there is no binding guidelines. We do follow, as editors, we follow COPE guidelines, ICMJ guidelines, whatever the guidelines, best guidelines we do adopt. And we have our own inner values we have to respect. So some geography is not represented adequately, be that area. So we will take from every background, from every different corner of the country, even for different geographies also we do respect. So as such, there is no such guidelines. If they meet academic criteria and whatever the you said, sir, you are given like associate editor should have 10 publications. And it should associate editor or any board member should have a certain publications. He should be a reviewer. So the other things that merit also holds good. Merit come geography holds here.
Sir,
thank you, sir.
Vinod, sir, if you allow me, I can ask few questions are there in the Q&A. Can I ask those? If you allow me, sir,
yeah,
Vinod, sir?
There in a chat box is there, madam. You can
No,
open
sir,
chat
in
box.
question and answers, there are some questions which are left. If you allow me, should I?
Yeah, madam. Yeah.
First, congratulations, Ben, sir. Nice presentation and nice question and answer session. I think one question is that according to the new rules of NMC, journals should have specific indexation What is the role of editor in this regard?
The editor has to ensure that whatever the criteria has been laid for the indexing, they have to comply with that. Now, this is the role of the editor-in-chief. That is why I'm bringing in that particular page, that their indexing has been made for this. Because there is particularly some kind of guidelines that one has to adhere to. Only then the indexing is being given. So being indexed means that a journal is following a rigorous scientific process. They have a validated criteria of selecting peer reviewers, and thereafter, and it goes for publication. So that is why these indexing are become important.
Yes, sir. Obviously, all the editorial board members also are part of it. So one thing, a similar question is that priorities of journal. Again, how it can be only responsibility of editor-in-chief.
Yeah, battery.
Pardon, could you repeat that?
Priorities of journal. How can it be only responsibility of editor-in-chief? Almost similar question.
See, it is the editor-in-chief who has to take the journal forward. It's not a publishing house. Publishing house is just, defining some kind of a guidelines. And it is editor-in-chief who is a member of the scientific community, who is a researcher himself. And they see the scope of the journal, in which direction they have to move in. So it is the prerogative of the editor-in-chief and the editorial board to take it forward.
So responsibility and onus lies on the board and editor-in-chief. Sir, one more question. Some journals are in UGC care list, but they are predatory journals. Then what should we do for publication?
Take excuse from that. Search others.
One more very, very common question is that what should be done about the journal which claims that they are PubMed on the journal page?
Go vice versa. Go to PubMed, put the name of the journal there. If that particular journal opens it, only then it is PubMed indexed. Just listing PubMed on their homepage won't suffice. PubMed publishes a list of journals who are in the PubMed line.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I hand over mic to Dr. Vinod, sir, and Ketki. Dr. Ketki.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was
just a moment. I see a last question. Kumari Sandhya saying, sir, if the publication charges are being asked, does that mean the journal is predatory? No, ma'am. Most of the journals are coming with the open access, and open access comes with a fees. So if you are a member of Hinari or some institute is taking care of those charges, then it is good enough. Otherwise, they ask these charges from the authors.
Dr.
Okay,
Vinod,
so-
yeah. Dr. Ketki, please. Take over. Dr. Vinod, sir.
yeah, ma'am. Yeah, it was a really elaborate. Hello?
Yes, you are audible. Dr.
Hello?
Ketki. Yeah, Dr. Ketki, you are audible. Please go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Yes, thank you. Actually, looking at the time constraint, we cannot take each and every question, I guess. So we would be mailing the questions to our eminent speakers. If anybody of you has, just post them in our Q&A box. Okay. Thank you, sir, for such an elaborative thing. So many doubts of many young editors, including me, have been sorted out. So thanks a lot. Now I would like to request respected Dr. Vinod Kumar sir, chairperson of the editors workshop, to please hand over token of appreciation to Dr. Lavneesh Bain sir.
Thank you very much for your valuable inputs, and definitely a good lecture. Just it will be etched in the memory of every audience. So they will remember you whenever they want to join an editorial board, they want to be a reviewer. So your words are valuable for them. So thank you, sir, for.
There is a query for one thing is that most of the audience wanted the PPTs, and it is for Nikita ma'am to decide. She has to take the decision. Nikita ma'am?
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, this is the resource for IESRF. So definitely, the all members have their own panel on our website, and they are able to see all the PPTs and the presentation by the eminent speakers. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Nikita ma'am. Dr. Ketki, please.
Yeah. Well, I would like to make an announcement that this session is it will be continued for more 2 days. We have a festive, treat to relish from many such eminent speakers for the days to follow. We have at the same time 5 o'clock tomorrow. We do have 2 more eminent speakers with us to guide us more about roles and responsibilities of editors as well as editorial strategies. It would be a great experience again. So we would be waiting for all of you to join tomorrow's session also. Now I would like to make request to Dr. Lalit Gupta sir to present vote of thanks for today's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ketki, and a very good evening to all of dignitaries. I really feel honored and privileged to get this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on this special day. This is the proudest day in the history of our institution, the IESRF community, where we have hosted the biggest and the unique scientific conference in the India with more than 200 delegates who are online at present from various countries, and it part from education to the science and from technology to the research. So I will like to give my special thanks to our President of IESRF, Dr. S.S. Jha, Dr. Amina Sultan Madam, Dr. Dinesh Vadiyal sir, Dr. Lavnish Ben sir, and the organizing committee and whole the supporting staff, the sponsors of IP Innovative Publications for making this evening memorable. And just mark my words, it is just the beginning, and we have more miles to go. And the glimpse of the day that you have seen will be more and more pronounced from the days are coming. Until December, we have many like the reviewer and the authors workshop, which will be according to the audience that we have decided. So at last, I would like to thank you, Nikita madam and Rakesh sir, for giving this opportunity of hosting as a course director for this workshop. And a very thanks to all the participants who have come here for our encouragement. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Lalit sir. It was a thorough, enjoyable as well as informative session. So it's a very, very unique combination that we have witnessed today. Thanks to all the eminent speakers, to the team and the audience, of course. So with the due permission from our president, sir, should we conclude the session?
Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, please conclude.
Yeah, thank you everyone once again, and see you tomorrow, everyone. Stay tuned for more 2 days for all the information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thanks.
Thanks. Have a great time ahead, and please stay tuned. Join tomorrow. See you again. Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you again. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.